What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and we are back with Maestro, War and Pax by Peter David. Now, it's been a while since we covered this because we wait for them to finish before we cover them all. For those of you guys who aren't familiar with this, Maestro is basically a version of the Incredible Hulk from a story called Imperfect, which has been really popular among Incredible Hulk fans for years. The one thing we didn't know is how the Maestro rose to power. This gives us that, right? This tells us how it is that Maestro Hulk became Maestro Hulk. So make sure you guys check the playlist. It'll get you caught up with the first video that we did. So this one is going to give us really like one of the most epic battles ever, which is like Maestro versus Dr. Doom. And honestly, I really think it's like World War Maestro, like World Breaker Maestro versus Dr. Doom. So here's the thing about this, right? Out in Hartford, Connecticut, one of the things that happens is this is kind of one of the last holdouts of human civilization, right? That they call themselves the Stalkers. Now, as a little bit of a catch up here, and we'll kind of, inject these in the story as we sort of go through, that the world had basically succumbed to like nuclear war, right? And the Maestro Hulk had emerged as essentially the only guy who really survived. That only really seemed to be aware of what was going on. I mean, there were a few survivors here and there, like Advanced Idea Mechanics, MODOK, people like that. And we'll actually find out there were a few more survivors, but not everyone was destroyed. But the fact remains that when it comes to just average humans, they largely took refuge in like major cities, as you would expect, and then started forming different societies and things along those lines. Hercules had been the one to basically form Dystopia, where he ruled as the leader of that place. And then Maestro toppled him and then ultimately took over. And so what this does is it initially has Maestro showing up in Connecticut and then basically eradicating the last of these human holdouts. Now, one of the things to know is it's not done arbitrarily. Instead, what the Maestro had done is he had actually sent an emissary to these people to invite them to join Dystopia. Now, the reality is the Maestro's invitation was join me or die. That's basically what it was. And they sent his emissary's head back on a pike. And so Maestro just took the response for what it was, showed up here and killed every single person that was fighting. It was basically all the adults who died. Following that, the kids turn on the Maestro and then basically say like go to hell, right? Like they intend to basically fight against him. So at that point, he sicks his forces on the kids and then takes all of them out. And so again, the ruthlessness of Maestro here, right? This guy is just hardcore. The crazy thing though is that there is basically somebody surveying Hartford, Connecticut, watching this whole thing go down and comes to the realization that this is something that could prove to be exceedingly difficult. Now, at that point, we switch over to Washington, D.C. Now, the Maestro set his sights on D.C. because as the capital of the United States, it would be most likely the most popular city to go to, just because of the fact that there are a lot of places that are within traveling distance of Washington, D.C. And it's just a well-known place, right? I mean, it'd be different if somebody said like, meet me in Schenectady, New York. No one's gonna meet there. No one really even knows where that is. At least I don't know where it is. I just know that it's a place that exists because the name's weird. But with the exception of that, most people would choose Washington, D.C. as like a place to arrive at. Now, Aaron Stack is basically Machine Man. And it's kind of funny that he's here because historically speaking, Machine Man was a really big deal back in like the 60s and 70s. He hasn't been a big deal for like 40 years in Marvel Comics. He hasn't been relevant in decades. But basically, Aaron Stack is quite literally a machine, right? He's a robot designed to look like a person, but he also follows logic and reason. Now, as far as Washington, D.C. goes, again, because this is one of the last remaining human holdouts, they have all kinds of resources at their disposal, right? They've got food, they've got all kinds of things, weapons, arms and armament, and so on and so forth. And so it's a very tactical place for the Maestro to essentially conquer. And so what he ends up doing is basically sending his emissary, right? Sending his minister to Washington, D.C., basically telling Aaron Stack the exact same thing they told the people in Hartford, Connecticut, that in the end, the Maestro is going to rule everything. Either they can be subjugated peacefully or they can be destroyed violently, but only one of those two things is going to happen. And in the end, of course, as a free people, they basically rebel, right? They're just like, no, the Maestro is not going to take over us. That's never going to happen. And so because of that particular fact, when the Maestro arrives on the scene and basically finds out that his invitation has essentially been rebuked, Aaron basically initiates something called Operation Egress, which in essence gets everybody out of there. They basically all start evacuating. But in the midst of all this, the Maestro shows up and then immediately starts attacking Aaron Stack. Now, while that goes on, what we actually end up getting is basically Delphi, who is essentially observing all these things that are happening. And what ends up going on is because of the fact that she had seen a kind of vision, she basically ends up meeting with Adelon. Now, for those of you guys who don't know who this is the Pantheon, Now, the Pantheon were really friends and allies of the Incredible Hulk at one point in time, specifically during the Peter David run, so it makes sense that he would bring them back. They have not been relevant in years, so if you haven't heard of them, it's not a huge deal, right? It's not a big deal at all. Just know that they are all basically descendants of Agamemnon, who is half Asgardian and half human. Very similar to Thor, but Thor is like half Mother Earth, right? He's like cosmic deity or whatever, however you want to refer to it. But in essence, they are, by all standards of measurement, essentially long-lived. They're not technically immortal, but they can live for an exceedingly long amount of time. So they're very similar to the externals, for those of you guys who are familiar to mutants. But ultimately they say that like Delphi basically had a vision. Now Delphi's powers are very ambiguous, to a degree, in the sense that she can have like premonitions, but it's very difficult to determine whether or not they are accurate premonitions. The only way to know is to just wait and see what happens in a lot of ways, or to act, or something like that. But they are allies of the Hulk, and this is the reason why they choose not to act, or at least they're instructed not to act by their leader, right? They're literally told, stay here. Do not do anything. We are not going to intervene. We're basically just going to stay put, right? Banner was at one time a friend. He stays away, we stay away. We have no reason to get involved here. And so following that, of course, the fight between Aaron Stack and Maestro, it is pretty interesting. Aaron Stack is able to hold his own to a degree, not really in any measurable way, right? I mean, he's able to attack the Maestro and kind of overpower the Maestro or take him by surprise from time to time. But at the end of the day, this battle was a foregone conclusion, right? There was no way that Aaron Stack was actually going to win. And even the Maestro says that, like he rips his head off of his body and he's like, what did you think was gonna happen? Did you somehow think that you were going to defeat me, that you were actually going to beat me? Like, I'm the Hulk, right? Like, you are a robotic man, that you literally bring nothing to the table outside of like the ability to grow stilts out of your legs, shoot energy beams from your eyes, and punch kind of hard a little bit, I guess, but like you can't really do much at all. And so ultimately Aaron Stack reveals the whole thing was a ruse, that the body that the Maestro is fighting is actually a duplicate, and that Aaron Stack himself, the actual Aaron Stack, is flying the people of Washington, D.C., of this area, basically to a new safe haven, right? A place that Maestro seemingly doesn't know anything about. On top of that, there is a bomb in the body of Aaron Stack so that if his body's catastrophically damaged, it'll detonate. That goes all the way back, right? That's old school stuff. It's been that way, been a part of his character ever since he was initially introduced, to make sure he doesn't fall into the wrong hands. But at the end of the day, of course, the explosion goes off, Maestro's not hurt, tells everybody, don't tell anyone this happened, that kind of a thing. But ultimately the Pantheon are met by the arrival of Dr. Doom. And so once Dr. Doom basically gets into the scene, which is kind of funny because initially they reject him, right? They're just like, whatever, it's Dr. Doom, who cares? He actually uses his time platform, his ability to manipulate time, to basically find a way into the Pantheon headquarters. Now, it's not really that he time travels so much as in Marvel Comics, the ability to manipulate time is time and space. So if you can time travel, you can teleport. So that's the reason why Dr. Doom's time platform basically serves as both a teleportation device and a time travel device, because the two are essentially one and the same. But as he gets in there and as he starts talking to the Pantheon, one of the things he says is that in the end, the Maestro is going to try to rule the world, right? That knowing the Incredible Hulk as he knows him, and with the Pantheon knowing him as they know him, that in the end, they all universally agree. The Maestro is not going to stop until he basically has every single human being on the face of the earth under his control, right? Until dystopia is the only place where human beings reside on Earth. And so what Dr. Doom basically does is say, like, we need to concoct a plan. We basically need to develop a plan in order to destroy Maestro Hulk. Now, one thing I do want to point out here is that Dr. Doom is written kind of finicky in this story. It's not the way you normally see him. I mean, you do have kind of like the pompous arrogance to a degree, but that's kind of the baseline Dr. Doom. There really isn't a lot of character depth when it comes to his character. He's kind of basic here. But beyond that, like, it's just kind of Dr. Doom here for the sake of just being like, Doom survived and him and Maestro are gonna fight, right? And that's basically kind of it. But in the end, Maestro is basically informed by his minister that the Pantheon is, or at least seems to be, still alive and well, right? Still seems to exist out there. And in fact, they've actually shown up on the doorstep of Maestro, basically as visitors. And when the minister tells him, like, they're the Pantheon, Maestro's like, oh, I know them. Yeah, like, they're friends, And so ultimately, as soon as Maestro shows up, Ajax starts attacking him. Now, one thing I want to specify, this is not Ajax of the Eternals. They're not the same person. Ajax of the Eternals is interesting. He's got character depth. This guy, Ajax, is an idiot. Like, he really is just a moron. Like, quite literally. He's just a giant buffoon. He can punch really hard. He's really, really capable. No one knows how he got his powers, but he's basically just a guy who's there. And so once Maestro kind of calms things down and starts talking to him, because Ajax is a moron and basically starts speaking in broken English, the simplicity of him recognizes the Hulk, and then everything kind of chills. And so at that point, what the Pantheon basically reveal is that a member of their group, a guy named Prometheus, had basically been killed by advanced idea mechanics. And building on the idea of Maestro in the sense that he is still, to a degree, the Incredible Hulk they knew, they're all basically kind of like, we're looking for revenge. We're looking for a way to get back at advanced idea mechanics, who basically killed Prometheus. And so ultimately, Maestro's like, sure, I mean, I can help you guys, right? You guys are friends, you guys are teammates, everything's cool. But the question is asked by Maestro of Atlanta, how was it that Prometheus died? And because she dodges the question, it's immediately suspicious. Because as a very tight-knit group, if she really was hell-bent on revenge, she would tell a story if for no other reason than it would basically expand on the Maestro's motivation to make advanced idea mechanics suffer. The fact that she's dodging it indicates that there is no actual reason. And that's when he asks Ajax, how did Prometheus die? And ultimately the response of Ajax is, I mean, he was sick, right? Like, it was really, really sad. And Maestro's like, so nobody killed him? And he's like, no, why? And that's when he realizes it's a ruse, that he's basically being duped by the Pantheon, which in turn knocks him out, right? They use like just the super high-powered gas, right? They're wearing nose plugs and stuff, you know, and so ultimately they're able to stay awake during the whole ordeal, and that Maestro passes out. Now, when that happens, Maestro basically ends up falling unconscious. And then the idea of the Pantheon is to use the powers of Pérez, one of their own, who is actually a telepath, on the Maestro in order to basically subdue him, to force him to revert back into his banner form, which is what they were expecting to happen, but didn't actually happen, and then basically kill him that way. And so what ends up happening is that once Pérez uses his powers on Maestro, that basically he just kind of starts creating these illusions, right? Creating these kinds of things where Maestro kind of lets his guard down to a degree, but at the same time, it's also manipulating him. And so Maestro realizes pretty fast what's going on here, right? Where he's just like, no, right? This is obviously an illusion, right? This is the base of the Mount, right? This place that I'm in, this is the original home base of the Pantheon. It's been destroyed since forever. So right off the bat, he's basically told by Pérez, none of this is real. But in order to begin the process of conditioning Maestro and basically messing with his mind, that he ends up presenting him with video images of his father being abusive towards him, punching him, and in fact, his father actually attacking his wife, attacking the mother of Banner, the mother of Maestro, the woman named Rebecca. And so in this moment, Maestro basically freaks out and then attacks Pérez and actually starts choking him. Because of what's going on in terms of his mind, his physical body reacts the same way. The connection's locked in, Pérez can't escape, and Maestro snaps his neck. And then following that, Maestro escapes and then immediately starts attacking everybody, right? Like just attacking the entirety of the Pantheon, and is basically able to overcome them. Now, the significance of this is pretty huge because you are talking about a ridiculously powerful team. The Pantheon is enough to give the Avengers a run for their money. And depending on the circumstance, right, depending on who all is on that Avengers team, they can overcome them. The Pantheon is pretty tough. Like, they're very, very capable. We're talking about some pretty significant heavy hitters. But Maestro goes through and kills every single one of them. But in the middle of all this, suddenly his mother appears. And that is enough to basically distract Maestro. And in that moment, that actually leads to him reverting back into his human form because he sees his mom. She's like, what have they done to you, right? What happened to you? Giving him that very, very human and very touching moment is like the one vulnerability that Maestro has. And when that happens, Rebecca shoots him in the chest. And then he just gets loaded up with bullets, only for us to find out, yet again, the whole thing is a trick. That Pérez had basically used his powers of telepathy to force Maestro into believing that he had actually killed Pérez, and that Maestro was actually killing everybody there. And so with him essentially dead and seemingly out of commission, Dr. Doom makes his move. He essentially conquers dystopia, and then Maestro is buried in an alloy called duranium, right? The toughest metal that they have. It's not the toughest metal in the world. Remember, adamantium is not easy to produce. It's a ridiculously difficult thing to create. And in fact, it's almost impossible to get your hands on the right materials in order to create adamantium. The best they have is duranium, but seemingly it's enough to hold the Maestro in place, right? Enough to basically keep him contained, keep him locked in so he can never escape. But as he begins the process of passing on, he ends up meeting with Leonard Samson, right? Doc Samson, who, as a lot of you guys who are fans of the Incredible Hulk know, for years was basically the Incredible Hulk's therapist and even a member of the Hulk family. And in fact, he was actually part of the more recent Al Ewing Immortal Hulk run. But essentially, it's kind of like the devil on one side, the angel on the other. That where Leonard Samson is Banner's voice of reason, where he's basically saying, like, the Pantheon is trying to kill you yet again, like they did before. They're encasing you in uranium. They figure that it can smother you, and when it hardens, it'll encase you. And Maestro asked the question, can I stop them? And the response of Doc Samson is, you could, but the question is, do you really want to? do you really want to live, Maestro? Like, do you really want to continue living your life, or are you tired of living? At that point, the Maestro persona steps in, and the Maestro persona literally just kind of starts tearing into Banner. He kills Doc Samson, right? That persona, right? He kills that personality, that kind of angel on the shoulder of Banner, and then starts tormenting Banner. And it's just like, you're weak, right? Like, you should know by now, I'm the only friend you have. Every person out there who ever tried to quote unquote help you, Betty Ross, Rick Jones, the Avengers, all of them, right? They've all been trying to weaken you because they're afraid of you. And when Banner says, like, why would they be afraid of me? The response of Maestro is because of what you can be, right? When you release me, trust in me. Put all the responsibility in my hands. Because of what you're capable of, everyone is afraid of you, right? They think they have you. Show them, Bruce. Show them who's in charge. Show them who the strongest one is. And that is when Bruce totally relinquishes control of himself over to the Maestro. And when Maestro emerges, he's twice the size, he's bigger than he was before, and stronger than he was before. He's increased in his capabilities. At that point, that's when he actually starts killing the Pantheon, or at least attacking the Pantheon. Now, for the most part, he is able to basically kill a couple of them, or at least he's able to kill Atalanta, their leader, and then in turn, as kind of a last-ditch effort, you ultimately end up having the Pantheon launching their missiles, right? Launching the missiles that are available to them. Like, they have multiple missiles, they fired them all off. The first set of missiles is fired off to advanced idea mechanics, partially because of the fact that in the face of the fact that the world had basically come to an end, advanced idea mechanics and even the Pantheon themselves, they could have done something to stop it, but they didn't. Right? They just sat by and let it happen. The other reason is because it's advanced idea mechanics, right? Just wiping them off the face of the map. The second set of missiles that are launched, when Maestro asks, like, where's the second set coming? The response to the Pantheon is, I suggest you leave. Like, if I would leave if I were you. And so ultimately, advanced idea mechanics underground base is totally eradicated. Everybody there is killed. The Pantheon themselves are physically destroyed when the bomb goes off there. And in the end, Maestro is the last man standing. And so following this, he shows back up on the doorstep of dystopia going after Dr. Doom, only for us to find out the two of them had actually been working together. That the whole idea of Dr. Doom basically enlisting the aid of the Pantheon was to bring the Pantheon to Maestro so that Maestro could destroy the Pantheon, because he knew it was only a matter of time, because the Pantheon were basically good guys, that while they were hands off in the moment, it was only a matter of time before they made a move against the Maestro. And because of how capable they were, and because of the various tools, arms, and armament they had at their disposal, they would have been able to organize a pretty capable resistance against the Maestro that would have gone on for a pretty lengthy amount of time. And had it gone on long enough, and if there was enough of an act of desperation, they could have potentially destroyed Maestro. And so Dr. Doom and Maestro worked together in order to destroy the Pantheon. And that's when Doom is like, okay, like, now that this is done, we can basically both rule our own individual kingdoms, right? Like, we can rule the world together by uniting our forces. And that's when Maestro reveals he basically poisoned Dr. Doom, right? The Dr. Doom is just, he's not a part of the picture anymore. Now, before you guys start freaking out, because I know a lot of you guys who are looking for a reason to be angry, you guys are gonna be like, that's ridiculous. Okay, that's obviously not what happens, right? Peter David is a experienced writer. He's not gonna have Dr. Doom killed by poison. And in fact, Dr. Doom even says that, right? He's like, yeah, I saw this coming, man. Like, do you really think you can kill me with poison? Or you really think you can poison Dr. Doom? Come on, man. Like, you gotta try harder than that. He's like, I took an antitoxin before I ever swallowed a single bite, right? At the end of the day, Maestro, you're a simpleton. I'm Dr. Doom. I'm the smartest man in the world right now. You're just a guy who's really strong, right? You are nowhere near my level. I saw your moves coming from eons away. Now, this is where things get really, really interesting, because while Dr. Doom is exceedingly capable, Dr. Doom is also exceedingly arrogant. And so all he needs is one moment where he believes he has the upper hand, and his argument is, the battle's over, right? Like, I've basically won. And so this fight goes on for a pretty good amount of time and happens all over the place. Dr. Doom throws seemingly everything he has at the Maestro, literally like the lightning of a thousand thunderstorms, just all come pouring onto Maestro, and it's not enough to stop him. But Dr. Doom also knows the key to defeating the Maestro is to try to wear him down, that you can't just overwhelm him with brute force immediately, because he'll continue to get angrier and angrier, and as that happens, he'll get stronger and stronger. And so stretching the battle on, wearing away, chipping away, right, making him, or at least forcing him to make mistakes, that kind of a thing. And that's one of the things that he says, right? He says, like, there's strategy, then there's knowing your opponent's weaknesses. And so trying to exploit those weaknesses, that's the name of the game for Dr. Doom. And so one of the things that happens is that Maestro, because of the fact that he has the intelligence of Banner with the strength of the Incredible Hulk and is effectively immortal, that he also uses that to his advantage. And depending on who you're talking to, arguably in terms of like combat strategy, some will say Banner is more intelligent than Dr. Doom when it comes to that, because Dr. Dr. Doom's knowledge is largely in like alchemy, magic, sorcery, whatever you want to call it, right? And then just general intelligence. But he's not really a fine-tuned tactician. He knows how to fight, and he knows how to use situations to his advantage in order to try to come out on top. But against someone like Banner, who's been in fight after fight after fight, especially fighting against someone like General Thunderbolt Ross, who is a master of battle strategy, you learn a lot along the way. And that's one of the things that happens here, is he says, okay, so I know that for a fact, I can't beat you the way that you are. Like, I know that with your armor and all that kind of stuff, I cannot overpower you because your armor is just far too durable in comparison to my ability to punch and so on and so forth. And so what he does is he lulls him into a false sense of security. He plays possum, right? He lures Dr. Doom in, and then when that happens, he activates an electromagnetic system in the Alchemax building, and when that happens, it strips Dr. Doom of all of his armor. Like, literally, the magnets just pull the armor off of him. And when that happens, it's just Dr. Doom in his human form. At that point, the fight's over, right? The fight's done. Like, literally, Maestro just starts pummeling this guy, and Dr. Doom escapes by the skin of his teeth by basically teleporting away, by essentially disappearing. We don't know exactly where he went to. The only thing that's really said here is that if Dr. Doom decides to reappear, that this is going to lead to a future that is completely and totally imperfect. Now, the reason why this matters, and is something that I wanted to wait until now to basically explain, is that where we would look at this and think that because it's Dr. Doom who is basically able to time travel, that it's presumably the Dr. Doom from like the main Marvel universe, something like that, because that version of Dr. Doom has encountered Maestro before. What's actually going on here is this is Dr. Doom from the future Imperfect universe. The caveat here is that when the world started to end, Dr. Doom time traveled. He basically jumped forward to what's going on right now, and that's how everything is unfolding. That's why he's here. Now, in terms of where he's gone in the time stream, we don't fully know. Presumably, he's gone back to his own time from before everything came to an end, right? Before the world was ravaged by nuclear and biological war. But whatever the circumstance is, Dr. Doom does appear in Hulk, the Future Imperfect one-shot, as well as the main Future Imperfect story itself. So it's not like we've seen the last of him. This just kind of continues on, or at least from here, this is the first time the two of them met. And the presumption is that this basically goes directly into when Dr. Doom returned during the main Future Imperfect story, or at least during the Future Imperfect universe line of stories. But with that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this to an end. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.